Have you ever heard a story whispered in hushed tones? A story so chilling it sends shivers down your spine? This is one of those stories. It's about a house, but not just any house. This house holds secrets, dark and terrible secrets. They say it's cursed. No one who's lived there has stayed for long, and now it stands empty, waiting for its next victim. The house stood on a hill overlooking the town. It was once grand, a Victorian mansion with tall chimneys and a wide porch, but now the paint peeled, the windows were boarded up, and the garden was overgrown. The yard was filled with dead leaves and twisted branches. The air hung heavy with silence, broken only by the caw of a crow. It was a place where shadows lingered and the wind seemed to whisper secrets. Aslı was looking for a fresh start. After years of feeling stuck in the same routine, she longed for something different, a place where she could finally breathe, dream, and build a life that felt truly her own. The city had always felt too crowded, too loud, and too fast for her gentle spirit. She wanted space, quiet, and the chance to create something new from the ground up. So, with a mixture of hope and nervous excitement, she packed up her belongings and set out for a new town, determined to leave her old life behind. She had just moved to town and was tired of living in small apartments. The cramped spaces, the thin walls, the constant noise from neighbors, it all wore her down. She dreamed of a place where she could stretch out, where every room would be filled with sunlight and possibility. As she carried the last of her boxes into her temporary rental, she promised herself that this move would be different. This time, she would find a place that truly felt like home. One afternoon, while exploring the outskirts of town, Aslı noticed an old house perched on a hill, its windows catching the late afternoon sun. The house looked forgotten, its paint peeling and garden wild, but something about it called to her. She felt an inexplicable pull, as if the house itself was waiting for her. When she asked the local real estate agent about it, he hesitated before agreeing to show her around. "No one wants to buy that house," he said, his voice low and cautious. "It's got a bad history. People say it's cursed, or haunted, or just plain unlucky. Every owner who's tried to fix it up has left in frustration." He looked at her with concern, as if hoping she would change her mind. But Aslı only listened quietly, her curiosity growing with every word. But Aslı wasn't superstitious. She saw past the decay and the stories. Where others saw a crumbling structure, she saw potential, a place with character, history, and soul. She imagined the rooms filled with laughter, the walls painted in warm colors, the garden blooming again. The idea of restoring the house to its former glory filled her with excitement. She knew it would be hard work, but she was ready for the challenge. It was a bargain she couldn't resist. Despite the warnings and the daunting repairs ahead, Aslı felt a sense of belonging she'd never known before. With the keys in her hand and hope in her heart, she stepped into her new beginning, ready to turn the old house on the hill into the home of her dreams. On her first night in the old house, Aslı hesitated at the threshold, her breath visible in the cold night air. The silence pressed in around her, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl and the soft rustle of wind through the overgrown garden. With trembling fingers, she turned the heavy antique key in the lock, feeling the weight of years settle on her shoulders. The door creaked open, revealing a darkness that seemed to swallow the faint moonlight behind her. The house greeted her with a chill that seeped into her bones. The air was thick with the scent of dust and decay, as if the walls themselves exhaled memories of a forgotten past. Peeling wallpaper curled away from the damp plaster, and every step stirred up motes of dust that danced in the weak light. The silence inside was deeper than outside, almost oppressive, as if the house was holding its breath, waiting for something. Aslı moved cautiously from room to room, her footsteps echoing off bare floors and empty walls. Each room felt colder than the last. and the emptiness seemed to amplify every sound she made. She ran her hand along the dusty banister, feeling the roughness of old wood beneath her palm. The house felt vast and hollow, as if it had been waiting for someone to disturb its long slumber. As dusk faded into night, the house seemed to grow darker and more mysterious. Shadows lengthened in the corners, and the air grew colder still. The wind outside picked up, rattling the loose window panes and making the old timbers groan. It was then, as the last traces of daylight vanished, that strange things began to happen. The atmosphere shifted, and Aslı felt as though she was no longer alone. Suddenly, the floorboards above her head creaked loudly, the sound sharp and unexpected in the stillness. She froze, her heart pounding, listening for any other sign of movement. But there was nothing, just the echo of that single haunting creak. She reminded herself she was alone, but the house seemed determined to convince her otherwise. Shadows began to dance along the cracked plaster walls, twisting and shifting in the flickering candlelight. They took on strange, almost human shapes, moving in ways that made Aslı's skin crawl. She tried to tell herself it was just her imagination, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger with every passing moment. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, Aslı climbed the narrow staircase to the attic. The air grew heavier as she ascended, and the floorboards groaned beneath her weight. In the far corner, half hidden in shadow, she spotted a dusty old trunk. It looked untouched for decades, its leather straps brittle with age. Kneeling beside the trunk, Aslı brushed away a thick layer of dust and carefully opened it. Inside, she found a leather-bound notebook, its cover cracked and worn. The pages inside were filled with frantic handwriting, lines and lines of desperate words, as if someone had tried to capture their fears before they were lost to the darkness. Aslı's hands trembled as she realized she was not the first to hear the whispers in the dark. The notebook, its cover faded and corners worn, belonged to a young girl named Clara. She had once lived in this very house many years ago, with her parents and younger brother. The diary was filled with her neat, looping handwriting, each page a window into her world. A world that seemed ordinary at first glance, but soon revealed a growing sense of unease. Clara wrote about her daily life, her dreams, and her family's routines. But as the entries continued, a subtle shift in tone became clear. The house, she wrote, had begun to feel different. Shadows seemed to linger longer than they should, and the air grew heavy with a silence that pressed in on her from all sides. Clara described hearing strange noises at night, soft footsteps echoing down the hallway, whispers that seemed to come from behind closed doors, and the creak of floorboards when everyone was supposed to be asleep. She wrote about seeing fleeting shapes in the corners of her eyes, shadows that darted away when she tried to look directly at them. These were the same unsettling phenomena that Aslı, the house's new occupant, had begun to experience herself. The connection between past and present grew stronger with every page Aslı read. Clara's fear was palpable in her words. She confessed to feeling watched, even when she was alone. She clung to her diary as a source of comfort, pouring her anxieties onto the paper in hopes that it would keep the darkness at bay. Her entries became more frantic, her handwriting shakier, as she described nights spent hiding under her covers, too afraid to sleep. She wrote about her parents dismissing her fears, insisting it was just her imagination, but Clara knew something was terribly wrong. Then, without warning, the diary entries stopped. The last page ended mid-sentence, as if Clara had been interrupted while writing. Aslı, unsettled by the abrupt ending, decided to dig deeper. She spent hours at the local library, poring over old newspapers and public records, searching for any mention of Clara or her family. The more she learned, the more disturbing the story became. Aslı discovered that one day, without any warning, Clara and her entire family had vanished. Their belongings were left behind, as if they had simply stepped out for a moment, and never returned. The house was found empty, dinner plates still on the table, toys scattered across the floor, and Clara's diary left open on her desk. Neighbors recalled seeing the family the day before, but no one saw them leave. It was as if they had disappeared into thin air. The police launched a thorough investigation, combing through every room and searching the surrounding woods. Detectives interviewed neighbors, friends, and relatives, but no one could provide any clues. There were no signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play, and no trace of where the family might have gone. The case baffled everyone involved, and soon rumors began to spread. Stories of curses, restless spirits, and a house that refused to let its secrets go. With no answers and no leads, the case eventually went cold. The house was left to decay, its windows gathering dust and its rooms growing colder with each passing year. No one dared to move in, and the story of the vanished family faded into local legend. That is, until Aslı arrived, drawn by the mystery and the hope of uncovering the truth. Now, the house is no longer silent, and its secrets are closer than ever to being revealed. As the days passed, the strange occurrences intensified. Aslı heard whispers in the dead of night, calling her name. Cold spots followed her from room to room. One night, she woke to find a shadowy figure standing at the foot of her bed. Fear gnawed at her. She tried to ignore the events, to rationalize them away, but deep down she knew something was wrong. This house was not safe. She had to leave. Aslı packed her things, her hands shaking. She was desperate to escape the house. As she was about to leave, she found one last entry in Clara's notebook. It was a single sentence, scrawled in hurried handwriting. "Don't let them take you too." A blood-curdling scream echoed through the house. Aslı dropped the notebook and ran for the door, but it was too late. The next morning, Aslı was gone. Her car was still there, and her belongings were scattered around the house. But there was no sign of her. The police searched the house and the surrounding woods, but they found no trace of her. Some say she ran away, driven mad by the house. Others believe she met a more sinister fate. They say the house claimed her, just like it claimed the family before her. The house on the hill still stands today, a silent sentinel overlooking the town. It remains empty, a testament to the darkness that resides within its walls. Some say if you listen closely, you can still hear Aslı's screams echoing in the wind. So the next time you see an old abandoned house, think twice before you venture too close. It might just hold secrets you don't want to know, and it might not let you leave.